All right. Good morning, everybody. Today is Daf Nunhei in Mesachos Pesachim. So we got to the two dots in the top line. So we said over there's a quote from the Mishnah. We said yesterday. I don't remember anymore. We said yesterday regarding to do malacha on Tisha B'Av, and they said Talmidei Chachamim do not do malacha on Tisha B'Av because they should really be thinking about the loss of the Beis Hamikdash. And then Rabbi Shimon Gamliel said a person should make himself like a Talmid Chacham. He should not do malacha on that day. He should be like them. And according to Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, right? Let's see. So Lameimra, second line on the top of Nun Hey Amar Aleph. Lameimra Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Savar Lei Chashin Liyura. Are you telling me Rabbi Shimon Gamliel is not concerned that a person appears like a Baal Gaiva? A person says, just like Talmid Chachamim aren't working, so I'm not going to work that day. He also thinks very highly of himself. But Rabbanan Savar Chashin Liyura, and Rabbanan say no. We are concerned that people, for that appearance, and therefore they don't. But we actually learned the opposite. Tonight we're going to Mishnah Chassan regarding a groom on his wedding night. A Chassan, according to the Rabbanan, if he wants to go ahead and read Kriya Shema that night, he can go ahead and read Kriya Shema like everybody else. Not everybody who wants to go ahead and say the Shema can say it, right? This person, the Chassan, he is Tircha. He's he's preoccupied with the mitzvah of his wedding night, and therefore he shouldn't say Kriya Shema. So now what do you see? So it's opposite shittas. Over there, the Rabbanan say basically, act, like everybody else. In other words, we don't worry about being a Baal Gaiva. Rabbi Gamliel says, no, you're not on the level to say that you're not preoccupied. So the Gemara says, I'm Rabbi Yechon Muchleves Hashita. So oftentimes the Gemara does. It says, Muchleves Hashita is usually the first answer. Switch around the opinions, and therefore make it shtem with there. Say Rabbi Shimon was in our case, the Rabbanan were the ones. Right, Rashi doesn't say which one to switch, but switch around the shitas that Rosh Gamliel is the same as both, to act, either as a Talmid Chacham or the Rabbanan say it. And Rav Shesha Brei Davidi Amar Leitepach. He says, no, we do not switch it around. The Rabbanan, the Rabbi Loikasha. So each one is actually two specific different cases. When it comes to the Rabbanan, Loikasha is not a contradiction. Why? In our case, everybody else is working, and he says he's a Talmid Chacham and he's not going to work on Tisha B'Av. So then it appears like a Gaiva. But over there, when it comes to the Kriya Shema, but over there, everybody else is saying Kriya Shema. For him to say Kriya Shema with everybody else doesn't appear like a Gaiva. And the Rosh Gamliel also like Kasha, also not a Kasha. Why? Hasan to be in Kavana. Over there, in the case of on Kriya Shema, person is required to have Kavana when he says the parsha of Shema. And we really have an assumption, right, that a person on his first night cannot have the ability to go ahead and have proper kavanah for Shema. Therefore, he shouldn't say it. So if he does go ahead and say it, he's basically showing it's like a guy like, even though the normal person can't have kavanah, I can have kavanah. So that's the nechsakira. But in this case, when everybody else is working and he's now working on Tisha B'Av, it does not appear like Gaiva. Why? Say, the guy probably doesn't have work. Look at all the unemployed people over there in the marketplace, and therefore it's not a problem. Fine. Now Mishnah. Mishnah says, Chachamim say, Yehuda hayu oisim malacha ba'arvei psachim ad chatzos. So the Chachamim say in Yehuda, in the region of Yehuda, they used to go ahead and do malacha on the erev Pesach and chatzos. They wouldn't do it at all. This is referring to the minhag. So in Yehuda, they would work until noon. In the Galil, they wouldn't work at all. In Halayla, the night before, Beis Shammai says aser. Now, if you hold the next day is you don't work in the morning. So even the night before is aser. Beis Hillel says no. The night before, the 14th, right? On erev Pesach, the night before, then you can go ahead and work up until sunrise. Fine. Zak the Gemara. So Meikar Tana minhag uvasayv Tana Yisura. I understand. In the beginning, right? The Chamim were talking about. Right, the minhagim of Yehuda versus Galil, and then afterwards they bring an isser. Right, Beis Shammai says it's aser, and Beis Hillel says it's mutter. Sounds like isser heter versus minhag. So which one is it? So Rabbi Yechon leikash. It's not a contradiction. Ha Rabbi Meir Ha Rabbi Yehuda. One is bin of Rabbi Meir, one is bin of Rabbi Yehuda. The time when Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda, you ois malacha bari psachim ad chatzais. In Yehuda, they used to go ahead and do malacha on erev Pesach until chatzais. With a Galil, and oisin kol ikar, they wouldn't do it at all. And Omar lo Rabbi Meir, Umar Raya. What's the proof? Yehuda v'Galil lekan. Why are you bringing proof from Yehuda to the Galil over here? Elo makom shenogu lasos malacha oisin makom shenogu shelo lasos ein oisin. So Rabbi Meir pointed out to Rabbi Yehuda, what do you bring them in? Right, in a place that has the minhag, you do it. In a place that doesn't have a minhag, you don't do it. Now, what's the proof here? Now, by the fact that Rabbi Meir comes and says, "Hey, this is the minhag over there," and he's coming to argue with Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Yehuda Isur Komar. It must be that Rabbi Yehuda is talking about Isur. So that when Rabbi Yehuda says whether they did it or didn't do it, he was referring to whether it was Asur or Mutter, and Rabbi Meir was saying it's a minhag. So therefore, maybe that's the difference in our Mishnah. So Gemara says, wait, can that be? The Savar Rabbi Yehuda Arba Asur Mutter B'asiyas Malacha. Are you telling me that according to Rabbi Yehuda, right, that it's mutter to do malacha, right? It says we'll soon see, such as let's say planting and stuff on erev Pesach on the 14th. Votani, we learned it right. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Hamanachesh B'Shleisha Asav V'Nek Rabbi Yado. So we know that the Omer is brought on the 16th, and at that point, it's basically permits anything that's planted in the ground. So let's say somebody was weeding and basically accidentally, right, uprooted some things, some of the plants. So the nekra biyado, the shodla, so b'makom atit, the ein shod b'makom ha'agrit. So you can go ahead. He goes ahead and puts it back in mud, and then it has basically 3 days to go ahead and grow, right? But if he puts it in hard dirt, then it won't take root, and therefore it won't be permitted by the Omer. Now it says it there, only b'shlosha in b'arba'asar lo. It says only on the 13th of Nisan. All right, the 13th of Nisan is basically the last time you can go ahead and replant something, so it's going to be covered by the Omer offering on the first day of Chol Moed Pesach. Now, let's see. Shmeina Leila Rabbi Yehuda. We know according to Rabbi Yehuda, which I just explained. Damar Kol Harkava Sheina Koletes L'Shoshi Yamim Shuveina Koletes. Anything that does not take root, right, basically won't be covered by the Omer. So it has to be in the ground for 3 days. Now, if you would hold that the 14th is mutter malacha, why does the last day of planting have to be the 13th? Say it's on the 14th, because then you have the 14th, the 15th, and then the 16th in the morning, and then it's brought sometime on the 16th, on the first day of Chol Moed Pesach. So why did it say over there the 13th? Ella, what? It must be that because, why did it say the 13th, not the 14th? It must be because on the 14th, you're not allowed to plant. Siyas malacha is usher. Planting is a malacha. So siyas malacha is usher. So Rava gives one there. It says, Begolil Shana. We were talking about the Golil. We said the Golil, they didn't go ahead and do malacha. So maybe that was Rabbi Yehuda said, I va'ika adam va'ika laila. What about the night? Okay, so do it the night of the 14th. So Rav Sheshes, maybe it's like Beis Shammai, because we said, according to those who didn't do it like in the Galil, they didn't do malacha, even at night, right, was also usher. So therefore, they couldn't go ahead and plant it at night. And Beis Shammai and Rav Ashi Amar Liyolim Beis really could be like Beis Hillel. That really at night is okay. Because it's not the normal way of people to go ahead and plant at night, so therefore it's not talking about a case at night. And Ravina Omar, he says, Le'olam Yehuda, really we keep you talking about in Yehuda, where people did do malachas. Why can't you say that a person was, accidentally uprooted it on the 14th, he could go ahead and replant it then? Rash Rasha, Chad, Mixas Hayayim, Kakula, Amrina, Tre Mixas Hayayim, Kakula, Lo Amrina. But that which we say, mixes sayam kakulo, we can only say once, not twice. So therefore, since we say on the 16th, once the 16th starts and it's in there, so even though you have a half a day on the 16th, that still counts as a full day. But you can't also go ahead and say the 14th also half a day. You plant it in the middle of the day on the 14th, then you get it's like all the 14th, then all the 15th, then partial the 16th, that also works. So in other words, you only say mixes sayam kakulo, partial day is considered like a full day to get the 3 full days of being in the ground. You can only say one of the days, right? I.e. on the 16th. So therefore it can't be planted in the midday of 14th. It has to be come from before, which is the 13th. Fine.
Just a quick question. What is the big deal with breaking a custom? Like, why is that why they're treating it like a halacha?
Right. So we broaden the beginning of the parak, right? So basically the Rabbanon, is what is the halachic source? I mean, something as a deraisa, right? That you shouldn't go ahead and veer right or left from the words of the Chachamim. There's a pasuk in the Torah, and therefore it's almost like a deraisa level. So if there is, the Chachamim say something to do it, and therefore basically a minhag, right? Something which was noheg, a custom in a place, basically becomes on that level. And we say, right, if you have a custom, right, and it's different than the place you're going, you should go ahead and act like them, and not go ahead and violate their custom. So basically,
that would be considered deraisa.
well, not in this case, but right. In other words, that which the Rabbanan say, right? Some you can say it's like a deraisa because the Torah commands you not to leave the chamim. So over here, when something is minhag, right, it's basically elevated to the level of basically of halacha, right? Now, whether it's derabbanan or not, that's the whole question of you can get a violation, obviously, of deraisa if you're supposed to do something, right? You can get malchus chayv lavin for not doing it. Derabbanan, you only get malchus derabbanan, and so you violate a minhag. Also, one could be held accountable. Perhaps for violating such a minhag, but basically that's what this parak is talking about. The fourth parak is the severity of minhagim, right? I don't have the. I'm just trying to find the beginning. The severity, right? So the Rashi doesn't really introduce it. So of minhagim. So, but it's a good question, and obviously it's more encompassing than just for the daf.
I have no idea. Okay, thank you.
All right. Mishnah. So Mishnah on the bottom, towards the bottom of Nun Hey Amud Aleph. So it says, so any malacha that was started prior to the 14th, you can go ahead. Well, Gemara will explain what scenario you're talking about. You can go ahead and finish it on the 14th. But you should not go ahead and finish it on the 14th. Remember, the 14th of Nisan. You should not go ahead even if you can finish it. So in other words, if you can go ahead, you need to finish something, you can finish on the 14th, but you shouldn't start anything on the 14th, even according to the first opinion, even if you can finish it also on the 14th. And the Chachamim say, there are three types of trades that can do their malacha on Erev Pesach, ad chatzos, and up until noon. And these are them: hachayatin, vasafrim, or svarim, and then hakaivsin. Right? It's the tailors, right? The barbers and the launderers. And Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, that's laundry of clothes, not laundering of money. And Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yehuda, Aimer af ritzanin. Right? Even those who go ahead and fix shoes, right? You go ahead and fix shoes. That's also something which is necessary, and we'll soon see why these are permitted. I.e., it could be for the yontif of Pesach. So now, questions. So now we wanted to know what we're talking about. You're allowed to finish, you can't start. So are we talking about you're allowed to go ahead and finish something on Erev Pesach if it's only for the purpose of yontif? But if it's not for Yantif, right, you don't really need it. You needed it afterwards, right? Then you can't even finish on the 14th. Dilma, or maybe means maybe it's something not needed. It's chuli masculine. Or maybe if shalol tzarech, but if it's something that you need for Yantif, you even allowed to start. Or Dilma asks, hey, bein l'tzarech hamoed, bein l'tzarech, or maybe it doesn't make a difference whether it's needed for Yantif or not needed for Yantif. Migmar in is chuli lo. Right, you're allowed to finish something on the 14th, but you're not allowed to go ahead and start. So that's the question. What three different scenarios? What is the
meaning? A question meaning finishing, meaning completing the task. What about steady state work? Steady state work meaning, let's say you're building a house, then you cannot work on the 14th altogether because you don't finish it.
Exactly right. But if it's something, let's say you're I don't know, making utensils, right? Or you're finishing up
something that you're not complete in the 14th, basically.
Right. You started planting something you want to finish planting, right? So that's shalach, right? But let's say it's something that perhaps you can go ahead and you're making utensils that could be used on Yantif, right? You're making bowls, whatever it is, they could be used on Yantif, right? So that's the question. So Tashma, so the Gemara is going to come give a couple of proofs, deflect, and then we'll finally have an answer. So Tashma, come listen. It says, but a person should not start a small project on the 14th, even making a small bell. So and even if it's basically something which is like something you wear on your hair, just a little hair net. So my afilu, what does it mean even? So afilu hani de l'tzarech hamoed migmar ines chululo. Sounds like even something you need the hairnet for Yontif, you need the bell for Yontif.
Sofer, right mezuzah. A Sofer right
Right.
mezuzah. He can finish it at the 14. He can start in the 14, finish with the 14.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Same thing. Right. So these
You
small.
can.
Right. So it says these small tasks. Right. It sounds like even those you're not allowed to go ahead and start. Right. So it sounds like maybe the halacha is, and even those are going to be used, right? The mezuzah, let's say your case, the mezuzah will be used in Yontif, but you can't start it. So it sounds like everything is you can finish it, but you can't start something. Michlal, right? Right? And even something which is shalol tzarech, you can't even finish it. So Gemara says, lo l'shalol tzarech. Maybe it means even something which is not needed. Right? Planting, right? You're not needed. You're planting your flowers, right? It's not needed. Migmar nami gamrina. Maybe that you can go ahead and finish. Umaya fila. What does it mean? Even a bell, let's say, or something for Yontif that you can start and finish it. Maya fila. Afilu hani nami. The zutrininu. That they're very small. The salgadais. I mean, his chazan zayik malachtan. That basically the starting of them is like the finishing of them because it's such a small task. It takes a half hour. It takes an hour, right? So naskabahu. Then maybe I can go ahead and start it. So kamash malan that you can't go ahead and start it. So therefore, the Gemara points out it's not a good proof. Maybe so we have no proof as to what items that we're talking about you're allowed to finish but not allowed to start. So Tashma, come and listen. Rabbi Meir, Aimer kol malacha shehit letzarech hamoed. Anything which is for the need of Chol Hamoed, right? Or for the holiday, right? For the holiday. Goimra, turn to the top of the page, and nun hey on the base. Goimra, Barabas, so you can go ahead and finish it on the 14th. So aim aside, when? That's only if you started it before the 14th. But if you didn't start it before the 14th, i.e., you started it on the in that morning, you can't go ahead and start it. Right? Even if it's something which is very small, like the bell or a hairnet, you can't even start and finish it on Erev Yontif. Now, it sounds like l'tzarech hamoed. It sounds like we said over there, only if it's l'tzarech hamoed you can finish. Shalol l'tzarech hamoed lo. But you can't go ahead and finish something, that which you said you're allowed to finish something on Erev Yontif. If you can't finish something, that's not going to be used, right? You can't finish planting if you're not going to go ahead and use it for the holiday. So Gemara says, lo, maybe who says that was shots? Maybe who didn't feel maybe even in that case you can go ahead and finish planting. Why? The hall kamash lan. So what's going to teach you? The afilu l'tzarech hamoed migbar. Even something which is needed for Yontif migbar inas chululo. Even something which is needed for Yontif, you might think you can start it on the 14th. No, you can't start it for the 14th. Never start for the 14th. The chiddush is only something that it was already started. You can go ahead and finish it. So Toshba. So that also once again deflected. So now we'll bring the proof. Rabbi Meir, Oimer, Kol Malacha Shil Tzarech Hamoed, Gaimra Ba'aba Asar. Anything that is needed for the holiday of Pesach, you can go ahead and finish it on the 14th of Nisan. V'she'ena Tzarech Hamoed, and if it's not needed for Pesach, Asar, then it is Asar. V'oisin Malacha Ba'arbi Psachim Ad Chatzos. Now, what you say, you can go ahead and permit it to do work. That's only until Ad Chatzos, until noon. And V'makom Shenagu, and that is referred to in a place of V'makom Shenagu. A place where they're knowing to work, you can only go work up until Chatzos. You can't work all the way up until the time of Pesach. And it sounds like over there, Makom Shenagu In, Lo Nagu Lo. It's only a place where they're knowing, but a place where they're not knowing, then you can't do it at all. V'shravino, we learn from here, L'tzarech hamoed In, Shelo L'tzarech hamoed Lo. That what you say, you can go ahead and finish something. You can only finish something if it's needed for Pesach, but that which is not needed for Pesach, right? You want to finish someone's tax returns. And let's say the 15th is way after Pesach, which I probably think this year, because I think this year it's early, right? So then, but then since that's not needed, therefore you can't even finish that in the morning in a place where they do malacha. You can't even finish that in the morning. Shema mina. Indeed, that's we learned from our Mishnah. Fine. Next, two dots. Third last of skinny line. The Chachamim said there's three types of trades that are permitted on the 14th. Satana hachayatin, why are tailor shechen hedya taifer kedarka b'chol shamayim? Because it's not something which is always completely forbidden. In other words, that's something that really, even on Chol Hamoed itself, a regular person, not a tailor, but a person is allowed to go ahead and sew and fix something. You got a hole in your shirt or your coat, you can go ahead and fix it. Hedya taifer kedarka b'chol shamayim on Chol Hamoed. About suffering, about kovsin, and when it comes to barbers and launderers, shechein haba midinasa yava. He is a person who basically just comes back from a long voyage overseas, or he's released from jail. He's even allowed to go ahead and get a haircut and go ahead and launder his clothes on Chol and so therefore these traits we see it's not, since they're not necessarily usher to do on Chol Hamoed, therefore we permit you to go ahead and do it on the 14th up until Chatzos. And Rabbi Yehuda Aimer, Afro Tzanim, even those who make shoes, why should I because you can go ahead and fix their shoes. I know, right? All these people travel long distances, a lot of usage of their shoes. So therefore, shoemakers can go ahead and fix their shoes on Chol Hamoed. So my comifli, what's the machlokas here? Samar savar lamidin tchilas malacha misayif malacha. One holds, the first opinion holds that we learn, right, the to start it from the end, right? So therefore, since you can't start it, therefore you can't go ahead and fix it. And the other opinion holds that we do not go ahead and learn, and therefore, since we don't learn the beginning from the end, so therefore, even though you're allowed to go ahead and fix something, but you can't start it, as opposed to Rabbi Yehuda, he held that since you're allowed to go ahead and fix something, you can also start the shoes even on the 14th. Fine. Naya Mishnah. Mishnah says, actually, I had to look this up. Embarrassing to say, I still didn't know how chickens were made exactly. I mean, I had a sort of an understanding, but I know Zevi's laughing at me. I probably should go back to biology.
Naya Mishnah.
Naya Mishnah. The Mishnah says, "My shivin shevkin
Naya Mishnah.
B'yadalid v'targonas." All right. So now one is allowed to go ahead and take a hen. Okay. Now take a hen and have it basically sit upon the egg, right? In order for the egg to basically become a chick, right? So, so basically the hen is on top. So one is allowed to go ahead and take a hen and sit it upon the egg on the 14th. That's not considered to be malacha, right? Mashivin sheichmin l'tanagolim b'yadalid v'tanagolas shabarcha machzir noisa l'mkaima. And one that ran away, a hen that got away off the egg, and the egg is going to go ahead and spoil. If you don't go ahead and put a hen upon it, you can go ahead and return it. The mesa, and if that hen died, Mashivin acheres tachtel, you can go ahead and put another one in place of it on this egg. And that was one case of halachas. Now we'll go to the next case. Gorfin mitachas ragli behema b'yadalid u'v'moi misalkin l'tzadim. One's allowed to go ahead and I guess they remove the fertilizer from underneath the legs of the animal on the 14th. And during the holiday itself, then you can move it to the side. Well, the Gemara will explain that case of what we're talking about there. And finally, malichin kelim uvin mebesa uman. One's allowed to go ahead and take tools, right? Not necessarily going to be used on Yantif, but allowed to go ahead and take your tools and bring them back to Beis Uman, to the craftsman who fixed them, even though it's not for the purpose of Yantif. Once again, the Gemara will also explain this case. So basically 3 stages. First one was referred to talk about a hen. Second one was talking about the fertilizer, the dung from an animal's. And the third one was talking about taking tools to and from craftsmen. So let's see the Gemara, first case. So now, first of all, the Gemara says, so it's very difficult to go ahead and take, I cannot speak from experience, but it's very difficult to go ahead and take a hen that was not sitting prior on an egg to basically get it to stay upon the egg versus one that was already on there that sort of ran away and you get it back. So now once you say you can go ahead and bring a new one, which is more work, well, you got to tell me you can return one that was already there. So say for us on the Chol Shamoid. No, the end part is talking about Chol Moed. On Erev Yantif, on the 14th, you can do a bigger malacha of taking a new hen and putting it on the egg. During Chol Moed, where you can't do as much malacha in Chol Moed as you can do on Erev Yantif, then you're allowed to go out and machzer because that's considered to be a lower level of doing work. And Amar Rav Huna leishanu ella toich shloisha lemarda da'akati leiparach tzimra mina. After, I guess, laying the egg, basically for 3 days, the hen has sort of like a yearning, whatever it is, the body wants to go ahead and sit on the egg. After the 3 days, of laying the egg, then basically this chick is right. Literally, this chick, right? This hen is has zero interest, right? It's like it wouldn't work. So therefore, we're only talking about you can return the hen within 3 days. But after 3 days, it's useless. Because after 3 days, right, then she has no interest in the egg, and right, and even that which we say, right, if it was 3 days after it left, the parchalat simra mina, right, so now is basically it's two different things, right. Also, if it was less than the egg, so that which we say, so one was within 3 days of her running away, the kadal parchatzim, amina, the achar shloisha liyashivta, after 3 days, because basically, from my understanding, I'm sure Zevi can correct me, and probably most people can who have a 7th grade education, but basically, if the egg was not, sat upon in the first 3 days, right, then it's going to go ahead and basically just, be an egg which can be consumed by humans. But if it started, the egg was basically sat upon for 3 days by a hen, and then the hen ran, left. So now the egg is no longer consumable by person, right? So therefore, basically, this case we're talking about, it has to be an egg, right, which was already sat upon for 3 days. So it's no longer, you can't just say, okay, well, if it was never sat upon, just, leave it for humans. So it's already sat upon for 3 days. And then the mother also hasn't been away, or the hen hasn't been away for more than 3 days, because at that point, once again, it has no interest. Now we said, right. So then we say aval, but then we say aval the acha shlosh lemirda the parachat simra mina. However, if it was after 3 days of where it ran away, and therefore it no longer desires to go ahead and have the heat of her body upon the egg, right, and then it was within 3 days of her beginning to sit on it, since the egg is not completely ruined, you can't move it away. So let's say it sat on for 1 day, and then it ran away, and then it ran away for 5 days, you can't bring it back. Well, that egg is still consumable by a human. And Rabbi Yomi no, even if it was 3 days, it's still go ahead and grab the hen and put it on, because 3 days is not considered to be a lost cause. So one says that since it's the first opinion says that if it wasn't 3 days, so therefore that something which is started but they didn't finish it, so therefore it's gross. It has very little value to sell to humans, right? If it was sitting upon for 3 days, if it was only, let's say, sitting on for 2 days, it's small value. So therefore it's not real value. Therefore you can go ahead and grab a hen and put it upon the egg to go ahead and help it help the egg hatch, become a chick. However, Umar Saver, the hefsed mu'ah navichashash says no, even for a small hefsed we're chayshish, and therefore, right, even according to Rabbi Yomi, so even if it was in 3 days of a beginning, you can't just say, oh, you can go ahead and feed it to humans, because that when they begin to sit on it and feed it to humans, there is very small value to it, because not everyone will eat it, and therefore we say you can go ahead, and because that's not really something that's not really considered, you're still using the egg because it's such a small value. Therefore, we allow you to go ahead and get another hen. Fine, 2 dots. You can go ahead and clear away all the fertilizer, the dung, right, from underneath the animals. The zevel that was left in the chatzir, you can move it clear to the sides. And sheberefes, but if it's in the barn, you can go ahead and take it out to the garbage dumps. Like Mar says, I understand. When it comes to the dung that's in the chatzir, you say you can only move to the side. You can't go ahead and clear it out all the way to the garbage dump. It's too much of a malacha. It's too much work. The other Tani then says sheberefes, if it's in the barn, then if it's in the barn or the chatzir, you can go ahead and take it out to the garbage. When it comes to the 14th, then the 14th, go ahead and clear it out to the garbage dump. That's, you're allowed to do more work on the 14th. But when it comes to Chol Moed, then just move it to the side. And Rav gives different theories. He says, really, they're both talking about during Chol Moed. And what it means is really it's one thing. Move it clear it to the side in the chutzner. But if you clear it to the side and there's so much dung in there, if it's only to the side, it's like a barn, right? It's like a stable where the animals are. Then you go ahead, allowed to remove it, even a chomai, you're allowed to move it from the yard into the garbage dump. Fine. And finally, the Mishnah says, Malichin kelim avein mebesu. You can go ahead and take and bring back utensils to the craftsman. So I'm Rav Papa, Badik Lon Rava. So it says Rav Papa. So Rava gave us a pop quiz. So he said, Tanan. Mishnah says, Malichin avein kelim mebesu uman afal pishein sar chamoy. Mishnah says you're allowed to go ahead and bring and take back utensils to the craftsman, even though that it was not for the purpose of chamoy. You're not allowed to go ahead and you can't bring back kelim beis uman. But if you worry that perhaps you have tools at the craftsman, you don't trust them, maybe they'll get stolen. If you go ahead and move it to another yard. So the first one says, right, you're allowed to go ahead and bring it back and forth. And the second one says you can't bring it back. Only if you're worried that they're going to get stolen, you can go ahead and bring it back. So Mashina, we answered, and that was the pop quiz. And we answered like Kasha, when it comes to on the 14th, that you're allowed to go ahead and bring back. However, when it comes to Chalamoid, that you can't bring back unless you're worried it's going to get stolen. Or even out there, it's Haba Both of them are referring to during Yantif, the Chalamoid. Kan ba'amino, kan b'she'enu amino. One is the case if we trust him. If you trust him, then you go ahead and you could leave it there. You don't have to bring it back. The other ones, if he doesn't trust him, you go ahead and take it back. We learned in a Bryce, it says, Mevin kelim beisa uman, right? One is allowed to go ahead and bring back utensils for beisa uman. Could go in hakad beis hakader, right? Let's say a pitcher, right? Or a kos or a glass from the glass maker. Aval light semer beis hatzava. But you can't go ahead and bring back things that are not needed for yantif at all, like dye from the dyer, for like kelim beisa uman, or right, our case, right, work tools from the craftsman, right? Now, but however, if the guy, right, let's say the craftsman doesn't have any food, you go ahead, okay, you pay him up front, and he has my money and my tools, and he leaves the tools by him. The made him amino, but if he doesn't believe him, then he goes ahead and he leaves it. Then he goes ahead and he leaves it in a house close to it by somebody he trusts. And if he also goes ahead and doesn't trust anybody who lives there, then he goes ahead and brings it basically to his house, without people noticing. So Tarasta Mevin Malichin. Excuse me, Tarasta Mevin. So we explained the case of Mevin. In other words, when are you allowed to go ahead and bring it back from the craftsman? One is if at Chomaid, you're not allowed to go ahead and we said if it's there, you can go ahead. One case says you can bring it back. The other says you can't. What was the answer? One case was you can bring it back if you don't trust the guy. Your word's going to get stolen. And the case you don't leave it back is if you trust the guy, he's honest the guy, he knows it's locked up, it's not going to go missing. Then you can go ahead and leave it there. And so, however, Malichin Kasha, however, what about the contradiction of taking it? One appears to say you can take it to the guy on Chomaid, and the other appears to say you can't take it to the guy. So Malichin Kasha, so Katani Ein Mavin, the Kol Shekain Ein Malichin, that says you can't bring it back, certainly can't bring it there in the first place. Rather, it must be clear that it was not both cases, both brides are not dealing with Chomaid. Rather, one bride was dealing with Chomaid. That says you can't go ahead and take it to there and bring it back unless your word is going to get lost if once it was already there. And the other case is referring to a case when it was on the 14th, and on the 14th, that is the case you're allowed to go ahead and bring it to him or bring it back. All right, we'll stop here at the Mishnah. Everyone have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos, and we'll see you guys, Mr. Shem, probably Sunday morning, 7 o'clock.
Shabbos, everyone.
Shikah.
Naya Mishnah.